Welcome to T4G Member. Today we're going to talk about what will happen to Notre Dame if they do not join a conference. Now, here's my honest opinion. They're chopped liver if they don't. They're a fart in the wind. They're just a bag of poop. I don't know how else to say it. In 10 years' time, if you want to keep your independence, you're going to be playing Memphis and SMU if you're lucky. And then that's it. Like, that's going to be who you're playing, and you're going to be trying to scrounge up the weakest of the Big Ten because the strongest of the Big Ten is not going to play you. Why would they? The SEC is not going to want to play you. They don't even like playing themselves. So this to me is just, honestly, I don't even know why we're talking about it. So the Fighting Irish want $65 to $75 million annually for their next deal. Of course they do. Of course, but you know what they get paid now? $22 million per year from NBC only contract, and that's their home games. They get an additional $11 million annually from the ACC, which is all their other sports, right? So you're talking, and this number I've seen change from, depending on the article that you read, from $7 billion to $8 billion, the 7-year deal, and blah, 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 $90 million per school. And that number, remember, is only going to grow because this is June 28th. That number's only going to grow because Oregon and Washington has joined, and they're probably not going to stop there. They're probably going to go after the ACC as well because the ACC is going to fall eventually in time. It's not if, it's when they're going to fall, and that'll be another video entirely. So, yeah, I don't think NBC is browbeating them that hard to where they're saying, oh, we could pay you this, that's what you're worth, but no, we pay you this because we're greedy. No, I think they have graphs. I think they have statistics. I think the Fighting Irish do as well. They have a really good idea of what they're worth. So I don't think this is actually real. I think this number is, of course, you want that because you need to stay competitive. But I think they're going to ask for this massive deal, and they already know. They just got AAU certified randomly, and that's what the Big Ten loves. That's kind of weird and kind of strange. But they want this number. They're going to ask for it. It's going to get turned down, and then Notre Dame's going to come out and act shocked and go, wow, we have no choice now. We have to join a conference or we're going to die off. And this whole time they knew they were joining the Big Ten. They're only doing this for their fans. That's my opinion. I'm not talking to anyone at Notre Dame telling me this stuff, nothing like that. But this number, where are you getting this massive number when you're getting paid this? I mean, that's such a massive gap. And even 65 to 75, a $10 million gap. That's huge. If you came to me, if you said this out loud to me, I'm not even NBC. I'm automatically going, well, I mean, clearly you're not getting this number because you already came in at this. I mean, guys, holy crap, just doesn't even make sense to me. And like they even say, but if the Fighting Irish want that kind of money, they have to give up their cherished independence. They finally join a conference. Of course they do. Why do they have to join a conference? Because Indiana and Purdue will make $50 to $100 million more than you guys per year. What does that mean? That means that they can take any head coach from you guys that they want. Notre Dame will turn into a program. For one, you already have a tough time recruiting as it is for head coaches. Okay, that's number one because your academics are so high. Two, you're not going to have the money to keep guys like Marcus Freeman because Indiana or Purdue could be like, yo, hey, dude, we'll drop $10 million on you, no problem. If you want to get into a battle on funds with one of the weakest Big Ten schools or one of the weakest SEC schools, you're not going to win that. You don't have the money. So you're going to be like a school like CU, no shot to CU, but you're going to be like a school like CU where they're like basically a stepping stone for coaches. They go in there, they do good, and then they leave. They go to greener pastures. That's what they do. You think Deion Sanders wants to stay at CU forever? I don't think so. I think once he gets good enough and can prove and the SEC or the Big Ten come knocking or the NFL, he's going to leave. That's my opinion. I think the same thing with Marcus Freeman. I think Marcus Freeman's doing his time, trying to get as big as he can, and then when he gets a job offer, he's going to leave. Like a true big, nasty paycheck that he's going to say, okay, goodbye. It's too hard here at Notre Dame. It's not worth it. So let's go over views here and talk about the views. At number 10, the top ACC school pulls in 34.8 million views in 2022. Okay, 34.8. Sounds like a lot. It does, until you keep scrolling. At number 9, you got the Texas Longhorns, and this is the Buckeyes Wire, by the way. Number 9, you have the Texas Longhorns, who are tied with Clemson, 34.8 million views. At number 8, you got TCU, that Texas market. I believe that's the Dallas market. 36.3 million views. I think TCU is going to be picked up by the Big Ten anyways. I really do. And I don't know when that's going to be. I just think that's going to be the future for TCU. At number 7, you have Penn State. Not a shock, 36.6 million views. At number 6, you got Notre Dame at 39.8 million views. Remember, they played also Ohio State, and that was about 10 million views in that game there. Okay, so that's, just remember that. At number 5, you have LSU, 50.4 million views. Georgia, 53.8 million views coming in at number 4. At number 3, you have Alabama, 62.2 million views. Michigan, 70.1 million views. Ohio State, 70.3 million views. If you add up the top 3 SEC schools versus the top 3 Big Ten schools in viewership, SEC doesn't come close. Okay, that's just the way it is. All right, so Ohio State and Michigan are whales. Absolute whales when it comes to eyeballs to the screen. And even them, they would struggle being independent, and they would likely die off, in my opinion, if they stayed independent in 10 years' time. So first things first, let's talk about what happens if they join the AAC. Nothing, really. I mean, honestly, guys, nothing. You're still going to make less than all the other conferences, because that would mean that Clemson, right, at their 34.8 million, let's round up, 35 million. And Notre Dame are going to be their 2 top guys. And this 39.8 million, 10 million of it is from the Ohio State game alone. So if they don't play Ohio State, knock off at least 6 million views. Okay, so that's 33.8, round up 34. Okay, if you add up those 2 numbers, is that as big as just Ohio State and Michigan? No. You're about 1 million off. Okay, you're close to 1 million off in just views from one of them. These guys are whales. They're orcas circling around. They eat whatever they want. All right, now, if we're talking about Michigan and Ohio State, yeah, that's a different ball game entirely, because if they were to join, it's over. They'll change a conference in and of itself. I mean, they really will. That's how big these 2 are. They're just Goliaths. All right, but you're talking that you 2 would head it up and still not. If the SEC with their 2 top schools, Georgia and Alabama, can't beat the 2 top schools in viewership and make more money for their conference than Ohio State and Michigan, how in the heck do you think it's going to be Notre Dame and Clemson? Guys, it's a losing battle. It doesn't make sense. Clemson is great. North Carolina, great value-wise, okay? These schools are great value-wise. Florida State, Miami, they're great value-wise. Notre Dame, great value-wise. But they're not the big kahuna that's going to lead a conference that's like, hey, we're the guy who's going to make everyone the money, right? Texas, in and of itself, couldn't do it, and Big 12 just gets crinkled, right, over time, because they asked for a bigger share of the pie because they were pulling in big views. USC couldn't do it. There are very few schools that could do it, okay? And Notre Dame and Clemson are not going to be able to do it. It's not going to happen, all right? I'm telling you, if you took Ohio State and Michigan with the 2 numbers that they have, you combine them together, the entire ACC, and if you throw in Notre Dame on the ACC as well, the entire ACC is still going to make less money than what Ohio State and Michigan would pull in by themselves if they were by themselves in a conference somehow, right? You still wouldn't make as much money as them. Guys, the writing is on the wall. ACC, I don't see how they survive. I just don't see it. You can add Cal, you can add Stanford, you can add whoever you want. I don't see it, right? Now, the SEC, for one, the SEC doesn't want to play themselves. They're a regional conference. You guys are a national brand. You also look at the TV networks. There's 3 TV networks into the Big Ten. Why did they invest into the Big Ten? Well, they see something in the Big Ten. They like making money, and they're very good at making money, okay? So if you look at who went in, you got CBS, you got NBC, and you got Fox News, who all invested into the Big Ten. So that's 3 times the marketing, basically, for their players, okay, and the national brand that they're going to get. Plus, they play nationally, and you got to think about, if you think these numbers are big now, imagine these numbers are before Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA even joined the conference. Imagine what those numbers are going to be for the Big Ten when they do join the conference, and the Big Ten is sharing and giving USC massive views, 10 million views, like they gave Notre Dame. They gave that to Oregon. These guys are all going to make tons of money because they're playing whales. Okay, so the SEC, I don't see if you join the SEC, you're gonna lose out on your rivals like USC. USC is not gonna. The Big Ten's not gonna allow you to keep playing USC. It's not gonna happen. All right, you already know they're not going to do it. Why would they? Because if they lose to you guys, it hurts their program or their conference, and it only helps the SEC. They're not going to do it. It's not going to happen. Okay, and USC's fine with not giving you that money. Trust me, they are. Okay, so that would cut your rivalries. That would also cut your national brand because the SEC is a regional brand. They're not a national brand. It's also going to put you on less networks than what the Big Ten has. So to me, the Big Ten makes the most sense. Now let's talk about also if you stay independent, what happens then? Well, why would the Big Ten schedule you? If the Big Ten has Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan with such a tough schedule where Ohio State has to play Michigan, they have to play Oregon, they have to play USC, they got to play all these other schools, why would they risk having one of their big kahunas that's going to potentially go win the national championship and be in the playoffs? Last year, they had 2 teams in the playoffs. You think that's going to get less for the Big Ten? No, that's only going to grow. Okay, so the Big Ten is not going to schedule you because their schedule is already going to be too tough, and they're not going to risk giving it a loss to one of their big schools to an independent school that is not a part of their brand. They'd rather do it in-house than doing away. So eventually, the time Big Ten's going to be out. They're going to say, no, we're not going to schedule you. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't profit us. It's a win-win for Notre Dame. If Notre Dame loses, you lost to Ohio State or Michigan, you should have lost to them anyways, right? That's what people are going to say. If you win, you get all the glory. The Big Ten gets screwed. One of their schools gets screwed. They're big schools, and that doesn't help them. The SEC, let's talk about them. Are they going to schedule you? Why would they? They don't even want to schedule themselves. They literally play one less conference game than everyone else because they're trying to milk the system as much as possible so that they can get as many guys into the playoffs, into the bowl games, and into the national championship to win a national championship. And this is why, if you look at Georgia's schedule this year, Georgia's schedule is a joke. UT Martin, UAB, and all these guys. And they complain with playing more of themselves. I don't want to play more because we'll lose. 50% of their conference will take one more loss, at least if you have 9 conference games. Okay? That doesn't help them when it comes to bowl game standards. And you can already see they milked the system. They got Kentucky into the playoff or into the bowl games, and then they get blown out by Iowa, 21-0. All right, Oregon State beat Florida, I believe. Texas Tech beat Ole Miss, beat the socks off of Ole Miss. Guys, the SEC is not going to schedule you. Then you have the Big 12. Well, the Big 12 is going to eventually, they would do it, but then that's going to change too because let's say you schedule TCU, and TCU's having a really good season, and then Notre Dame knocks off TCU. Do you think that the Big 12 is going to want that? No, they want their teams to go to the playoffs. They're not going to schedule you. They're going to be so scared to schedule you because you guys definitely have a chance to beat one of their top schools. So why are they going to do that? You are eventually going to put yourself into where there's going to be no one playing because the AAC is going to fall. And even with you scheduling them, this doesn't do you any good. The AAC has a weak schedule in and of itself. So I'm telling you guys, if you're fans of Notre Dame, look at the writing on the wall. And I'll end it with this. I don't even think the NCAA is even going to be around in 5 years. And the reason I don't think it's going to be around in 5 years is because they're just a governing body. They're a middleman. It worked when there was multiple conferences because one conference couldn't pull out because then all the other conferences, they would just eliminate them and say, fine. If Big Ten said we're pulling out, they'd be like, fine. You're not going to get to participate in the season, blah, blah, blah. They'd have to have their own season. It would be ridiculous. But now that the Big Ten consumed the best of the Pac-12 and then the SEC ate up Texas and Oklahoma, took a huge bite and removed the arm and leg of the Big 12, why do they need a middleman? And I think the NCAA even knows that they're SOL, and they're just trying to create havoc. They opened up the NIL, and they just said, hey, it's unlimited, so only the big schools are going to profit from that, right? Pretty simple there. And on top of it, they just said open, hey, the transfer portal's completely open, do what you want, right? That's basically what they said. They opened it up. There's no governing body that's actually creating intelligent rules. But they still, at the end, said you're only allowed an X number amount of staff members. Okay, great. Dandy, but that puts so much pressure on all these programs because their coaches have to do so much more than what they should be doing because they can't hire, for whatever reason, they can't hire more staff guys. How does that make sense? Okay, so I think the NCAA knows their SOL. They don't even own the bowl games, guys. They don't even own the bowl games. So what do you actually have that you have to offer to to these big conferences? And once they get big enough and they get confident enough, which they're already getting there, and they realize that, hey, I don't even need you guys. We don't even need you. We're going to create our own Senate, Congress, and what have you, and create our own NCAA where we create our own rules. They're going to do that. NCAA is going to be gone. And then what is Notre Dame going to be? You're going to be the independent of what? Nothing. It's going to be nothing. So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, but this whole thing is just kind of silly.